as part of the specification, we need to study one developing or low-income country that is experiencing flooding from storm surges. So we study Bangladesh. Now, as a low-income country and a developing nation, there is many reasons why Bangladesh is vulnerable to flooding. Okay, so one of the first reasons why Bangladesh is vulnerable to flooding is because north of Bangladesh there is the Himalayan mountains in Nepal. Now, due to global warming, there is more water flowing from these mountains, because there's more meltwater. Okay, now that is feeding the rivers in Bangladesh. Okay, so increasing the river discharge in Bangladesh. Now there are 3 rivers in Bangladesh. 2 from the north, we have the Ganges and the Meghna. And then from the west, we have the Brahmaputra. Now, another reason why Bangladesh is vulnerable to flooding is because 46% of their population lives less than 10 metres above sea level. Okay, now that is particularly more severe in the south, where much of the country or much of the south is on a low-lying river delta and is only 1 to 3 metres above sea level, which puts them very at risk of flooding and storm surges. Now, another reason why Bangladesh is quite vulnerable is because they have a large population at 156 million, and their GDP is limited currently to 150 billion. Okay, so they're limited by that. Now, Bangladesh often experience cyclones, so this also makes them very vulnerable, particularly in the south, in the Bay of Bengal. Now, we also need to focus on one event, which is Cyclone Sidr. Now, Cyclone Sidr was a Category 4 cyclone, and it experienced 223 kilometers per hour winds. Okay, now Bangladesh often experiences low pressure, okay, which causes its cyclones to hit the country, but these cyclones also bring along storm surges. So not only do these cyclones have very, very intense rainfall, they also bring these storm surges. Now, Cyclone Sidr brought storm surges of 6 metres high. Okay, so we already know that the south of Bangladesh is very low lying, so 6 metres high storm surge is going to impact much of the country. Now, in the south, in a particular village, they made this incredibly more severe because they removed some of the mangroves. Now, they removed the mangroves, okay, because they wanted the coast to look in a particular way. They might have moved the mangroves for tourists. Now, they moved the mangroves, which would have reduced any erosion and would have helped intercept some of the water. They also have lowered some river embankments, okay, so that they could build a road. And because they lowered the river embankments, it allowed the storm surge in. So this cyclone and storm surge led to many socio-economic impacts. So some of the social impacts were that 4,234 people died. Many houses, buildings were destroyed. There was a loss of electricity as many power cables went down, okay, and this would have taken days to get back up running. And also the water was contaminated, so it meant that people could not access drinking water for several days. Now, there's also many economic impacts from this. Firstly, the cost of damage came to 1.7 billion, but also the storm surge damaged many crops, including roughly 685,000 hectares worth of crops, okay, obviously damaging the farmers' income. Now, this storm surge and cyclone could have been more intense. However, Bangladesh has put some prevention into place. So first of all, they had put an alert out that there was going to be a storm surge, so people knew to evacuate. Also, in Bangladesh, they had built cyclone shelters, so people could go to the shelters and they could get to safety. Okay, that would have dramatically reduced the deaths, and it also would have meant they might have had some access to water that would have been stored in these shelters. Okay, so that is our low-income country example of a storm surge and a cyclone, which shows that why they're at risk of flooding. Okay,